The theme of History Fair this year is Rights and Responsibilities. In this presentation, we will be discussing the rights of religious freedom and how they were violated due to the Spanish Inquisition.
What this presentation will prove is that the right of religious freedom cannot be taken granted for, seeing how it took centuries of fighting just to have that right. Today, we can have a belief of anything without being threatened by any form of government for it. What this presentation will prove is that the right of religious freedom cannot be taken granted for, seeing how it took centuries of fighting just to have that right. Today, we can have a belief of anything without being threatened by any form of government for it.
During the Spanish Inquisition, Ferdinand and Isabella had the responsibility to make their entire country Christian. People were either forced to convert or thrown out of Spain. This was also during the time where Spain was still expanding to new lands. One of the problems for this expansion was the Muslims.
One obvious cause of the Spanish Inquisition was the dream that Ferdinand and Isabel had, to create a country made all of Christians. Another was also the goal to root out Muslim rule in Granada, a modern-day city in Spain. During the Spanish Inquisition, the rights of religious freedom was violated. If a person was in Spain, the government would try to do many things to them. They could try to convert those with different religions, torture them, or expel them out of the country. Other countries like Portugal also caught on with this, only being more lenient by giving a choice to convert. Still, no one had a choice to worship what they wanted. People like Jews, conversos, and other religions faced these problems. This lasted until 1860, although it took on different forms during that huge time span.
The responsibilities of the Inquisition are more or less inferences. One was to make sure that everyone was a Christian, and anyone who wasn't or wasn't trusted is to be dealt with. Another responsibility was for anyone under the rule of Spain had to stay alive and be as Christian as the government wants them to be.
Years went on, and the right to religious freedom was still violated in Europe and such. But a light for that right could be given came onto earth. This, of course, was the U.S. Constitution. This gave people the promise that they could follow any religion they wanted to, and no one should be allowed to prejudice you just for that. So, Spain later gave this to people years after the Inquisition, and everyone is granted the right itself.
This event was important, showing how back then people were not as open-minded to people that are different than themselves, like religious or races. But in our society today, a lot of these boundaries are taken away from everyone and they can live a normal life even if they are abnormal. This doesn't, however, contribute to Chicago history as much as opinion. Yes, during the history of Chicago, there was times where people hated each other just because they were different from themselves. Even today, people still think the city itself is still segregated. How a certain races live here and another there, but it's just their choice. No one like the government or Congress is forcing them to do so. We basically have it easy compared to back in times like the Spanish Inquisition.